Kuten tuolta jo näettekin, ohjelma jatkuu. Ja nyt vaihdetaan kieltä englanniksi. It's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Nordic Innovation Manager Ahlinder from Unilever, Sweden. Please, the stage is yours.
Short introduction. My name is Carl, working as Innovation Manager at Unilever in the Nordics. So I've been at Unilever 8 years. I'm working. Working now? Is it working? Working better now? No, it's working. Great. All right, let's kick off then. So, my name is Carl, working as Innovation Manager at Unilever in the Nordics. I've been at Unilever for 8 years. The last 3 years I've been working in a role where I'm really much focusing on innovation across the Nordic markets. I'm responsible for what we call the back office marketing team, who are very much in charge of ensuring article information, assets and other key information are sent from us as suppliers to our resellers in a good and efficient way. So, short introduction about Unilever. So we are a multinational company. We're selling all our products across all the markets across the world. It's a big company. We're selling products for 53 billion euros every year in worldwide. Many people not really knowing Unilever as a company, but very many people consuming and knowing all our brands. We're selling and own many of the most consumed brands in the world. So we can see that all of these brands are used by many people all over the world every day. I often get a question from people saying that, Carl, you have been in Unilever now for 8 years. Wouldn't it be nice to try to do something else? And my direct feedback on these kind of questions is very often saying that I really love to work for Unilever, because Unilever is a company that really having a vision which is coming very much close to my heart, saying that we want to grow business, but we also at the same time want to drive positive social impact, but also reducing our sustainable impact on this planet. Unilever was one of the companies first introducing our sustainable living plan actually to our P&L, saying that we want to be openly sharing where we are working on the environmental impact every year with our business result. So we do that every year, and if you look at the last year's progress, we are actually on target for 80% of all the targets we have committed to deliver. So that is something that are very close to my heart, and also the reason I also continuously would love to work for Unilever as a company. All right, cool. Just now back to the theme of today's presentation. So I'm here because I really having a close passion for article information and correct information. So what I would like to speak about today is very much about the importance of having correct information and how that actually can drive growth for the full industry. If you look at from Unilever and from other suppliers and resellers, having correct information is actually one of the keys to sell our products. Information is super important to having correct information upon all the deliveries. Big companies and both resellers and suppliers every day sending a lot of truckloads and trains full of different type of products. At the sourcing unit and at the warehouse, it's very important to have correct data, otherwise it's going to be impossible to do the logistics in an efficient way. When it comes to the purchase position, of course, it's very important to have the correct information of your product when the consumer should buy your product. The reality is that if you don't have the right data, the consumer will choose another brand instead of your brand. When you're doing the checkout in stores, if you have incorrect data, it's also something that will impacting the possibility to scan out and scan in products. So that is also something that is very important for us. Then it's also one of the most important parts is when people are really consuming our products. Because when people are consuming products, if the information on the product is not correct, is actually creating dangers for people. I mean, we are a company supplying foods and beverages product, and having incorrect information of the user is of course going to impact in very, very dangerous cause of people using products. We at Unilever, we work with article information in a way like that, so very top line. So we have source systems which creating all the data for us. Once the source system has been creating the data, at every market we have what we're calling a PIM platform. So that is an internal system collecting all the data from the source system that actually creating the data. So this is something we have in each market at Unilever. From this system, we're then sending that data to the different data pools in the market the product is going to be sold. So in Finland, we send that data through an IT system provider directly to the Synkka data pool. And then from the Synkka data pool, so the resellers that are going to be selling the Unilever's product is then having a prenumeration for RGLNs, meaning that the product information ending up in their systems. That is very top line. The reality is also that article information need to be shared in a lot of different other forums. So one part is that we also selling products to a lot of non-GS1 compliant resellers, not using the Synkka data pool, meaning that we also then supplying the information through different Excel files to different customers. We also work in the industry with something that we call the price lists, meaning that article information is not only needed to be supplied in the data pool, it's also need to be supplied in what we say in the price list. So that is also a source of how we as a supplier need to provide article information to different points. And thirdly, we also of course need to have article information ready on websites and on the product catalogs and etc. That is also something we supply the article information from our internal system for. So what you can see from this slide is that article information is something that is shared across a lot of different type of channels, which of course creating a type of work stream which are not super efficient because as you need to have your data in so many different touch points. So the day when something needs to be changed, it's very often that you need to change that in many, many different sources, which is causing a lot of manual workload. Then we can ask ourselves a question, is it so tricky to actually provide information of our product in a very easy and smart way? So as Unilever, just in Finland, average every year we supply 200,000 unique article information fields to different touch points. Article information is also something that we work with in many markets, that we share that information before an actual product, we know exactly how that product will look like. For many big companies, having an innovation process that around 10-12 weeks before the actual product's going to be stock in warehouse, the product will be locked. So we have the final product ready, where information, we know exactly how that product will look like, and the labels has gone to print. So it's only at that point of time we know by 100% exactly how that product will look like. Thirdly, is that big companies and small companies working with article information internally across different functions. Very naturally, because article information is huge, a lot of different fields needed. So it's not only one person that are responsible for article information and know exactly all the information of products. So internally, it's very important to having a very, very tight dialogue about information, when it's changing, when it's created, and etc. We also see, based on the reality out there, so we as consumers, when we are out in the store, we want to know more and more about the information of the product we want to buy every day, I would say. So just 2 years ago, I got a son at home. And also when I'm buying food for my son, I also want to know exactly everything of what's in the product. So as a consumers, we're really driving a trend of having more and more information available of the products we are selling. Which of course also leading to that we as a business need to supply further materials, which making our lives a bit more complicated, but also that is the reality we're facing. So, something I want to focusing on a bit today, because I'm working with the Nordic role, so I'm working very tight with all the 4 markets in the Nordics. So today I'm going to be sharing now how the process of article information goes between suppliers and resellers across the Nordic markets. To show a bit how we work in the market, because also what I see is that we really can drive synergies working together as a Nordic market and improving and drive growth for our industry that we're working with. If you look at Sweden as the first example, Sweden look like Sweden having a process where you're having a 2-phase approach of sharing article information. First, you're having a phase 1, which is always 16 weeks before the before the product is going to be on the market. This is adapted by the full industry. So all resellers are following this timings worked through by the GS1 Sweden. What you're doing is that you're updating the Swedish data pool with a couple of key article information fields, and then you're sending in the price offer, so the price lists. For the biggest customers in Sweden, the price lists are sent in through a web page. So you're logging into the customer's homepage, you extract out directly from GS1 in that homepage the article information, and then you're populating only the sales and discounts and etc. So article information touch points is for many customers 0, meaning that we're trusting data in GS1, and that is automatically then populated through this price to the price list. So we don't repeatedly add that with the risk of having incorrect information as it's manually touch points. Times go, and you're coming into the phase 2. Phase 2 is something which is 8 weeks before deadline of when the product's going to be in store. At that point of time, we have a deadline of quality test our products. We're sending in a dummy SKU. If we don't have the final product ready, we quality test that versus article information given. We got the opportunity then to change the data which has been shown incorrect. We update that data, and once that deadline is passing, then the resellers are downloading the data from the data pool, and they knowing that the data is 100% accurate. So between these 2 phases, you have an opportunity to change all your data, what you have been given. If you compare that to Denmark, you're having a process where 12 weeks before the actual product is going to be on the shelf, you do pretty much the same as in Sweden, that you're sending in data to the GS1 data pool, but then you're also updating price lists to your resellers. The phase 2 in Denmark is 2 weeks before. So then it's the deadline when you need to quality test your product and have the final information ready in that data pool. So between these 2 timings, you're also allowed to change your data. So only at that point of time, the reseller is downloading the final data from GS1. Norway, which I would say is the absolutely best practice, having a system which is trade solution. Unfortunately, not 100% GS1 compliant, but the system works like that you 15 weeks before the launch, putting in your article information data in it. From that system, you're getting an automatically number per product. So that system gives you an article number for each product. That is the only thing you're adding then to your price list when you're sending a price list next to your data. So we're not working with any field of article data in any price list, and instead trusting the system to one source of data. There you're also having a phase 2, where you're then allowed to change the data in the system until the final data is conferred. Comparing this to how we work in Finland today, and where I see that we really have a big opportunity to influence and impact, is that we're very much working with a phase 1 scenario. meaning that the general timings is not set. So we don't have a general agreed timing supported by the GS1 saying that we recommend every supplier and reseller to work together on a timing that X amount of weeks before before the product is going to be on shelf. This is when you should supply the data. So that is very much set individually from reseller and suppliers negotiations. That is often happening 20 to 23 weeks before the actual product is going to be on shelf. And that is a timing which of course making it very tricky to confirm 100% that your data at that point of time will be 100% accurate. Because companies in general, as suppliers working, as I said, in a process that 10, 12 weeks before, then you have your confirmed product ready. This is when you know how your product exactly going to look like. So this is very much how we're working. So we send in the data to the data pools, so Synkka in this case, but then also updating to the price list with key article information data as well. So, share some things we have been updated and what we have been working with in Denmark, Sweden, and Norway during the last year. As you saw from that previous slides, all three markets, Sweden, Denmark, and Norway, have now agreed to implement this two-phase launch scenario. A two-phase launch scenario that we always then have the opportunity to send in data as a supplier at one point, and then at the second point to always know that this is the final deadline, that data need to be correct. And that is when we agree that this is the absolute data, we can confirm that this is right, this is what we should choose. My experience is very much that sending in data very long time in advance before a launch is, we know that as a business that this will not be 100% correct. When we are changing data, then is when actually product when it really comes to difficulties in the industry. Because changing data with all the touch points we are having, so we're having the data pool, we're having a price list, and we have been sending different type of information through different type of emails, which then ending up in a lot of other systems. And then when something's changing, if we're having a lot of touch points, it's a lot of different files and systems that need to be updated with these changes. So really the key fact here, I would say, trying to make first time right would really benefit us to provide better quality data to our consumers in the end. Second part is something that we have been working with also across these three markets. Norway has best practice that has 0 fields of article information in their price templates and price lists. But also in Sweden and Denmark. Denmark just 2 weeks ago agreed that we're going to reduce a lot of different fields in the price list templates and using the trust of the data pool for information and use price lists for prices and discounts. In Sweden, we're having a program ongoing right now, where the where we're discussing with the trade if we can come up to an agreement to having one price list template, which is a common best practice that everyone accepting on the market. That price list will then be uploaded to the GS1 system. So if you want to send a price list or you want to start selling a new product to a reseller as a supplier, then you can download that price list pre-populated from the GS1 system. What happened then is that we're avoiding the manually work and manually touch point of entering data from different sources. Because that is a risk that some typing error happen and etc. And this is what we really would like to avoid. Because in the end, that data going to be used then to our consumers. And we all have the ambition that data need to be right to the consumer. So that is really the vision we are having all together sitting in this room. In Sweden and Denmark, we have been working through this agreement with GS1, so GS1 really having a clear recommendation saying that you're having a phase 1, you're having a phase 2, this is your deadlines when you should supply data between suppliers and resellers, which making it the life much easier for a lot of people, knowing exactly the timings when information need to be ready. And that is something I think we definitely should work on going forward in Finland, trying to get as many players as possible to come to an agreement that this is the timings we would like to work with. Because in the end, that's going to be a massive reduction of workload from both suppliers and resellers, and also improving the data quality enormously. Standardization of price list, something I mentioned, which I think is very, very, very efficient to do. Today it looked like in Finland and Denmark, also in Sweden, we have not managed to come to agreement yet, but we're working with separately price list templates across the industry. So every reseller working on a separately price list with demanding the information in a different way. So if we can come up to a joint format, it's going to be so much easier for everyone, and I can guarantee you that the quality of data on this price list will be increasing with 30% the day after that is implemented. In Sweden, we're working with something which called ECR timings. And ECR timings is something has been worked through by the business, so resellers and suppliers together, coming to an agreement saying that these are the trade windows every year we want to follow. And then we have an agreement that everyone follow these trade windows. So for example, you're having a trade window week 11 where you're allowed to change information about ice creams and other beverages, etc. And that is something then accepted, so it's worked through in a collaboration between suppliers and resellers to come up with a most efficient way. Because it's so many products going into a big supermarket, it's millions of products on the shelf. So that we said in the Swedish working group that we're really efficient the process for everyone and reducing the time and effort to spend on article information. So, a couple of things I would like to suggest and like to collaborate and like to support, which I think can help really the Finnish industry to be much more faster on launching things and improve the quality of data enormously. First of all, it's really as soon as possible try to come up to an agreement about a two-phased launch window timing. So we're having an agreement that we're sending data in a phase 1, but also then having an opportunity to look through data, and once data is finally confirmed, we know that the printed labels are done, can confirm that this is in the end how the product exactly will look like. By using that data, we can guarantee that the data will be correct in stores, when the consumer buys it, on warehouses, and so on. The phase 1 is, as we showed, agreed by many in the Finnish market is something we have very, very early. There's a lot of reasons behind, but this is very much something I think we should try to look through if it's possible to delay that a couple of weeks. And that is not something I'm saying to make the lives easier for suppliers. That is something I'm saying that due to the fact that the world around us is changing very, very, very fast. Consumer demands are changing, new trends are coming and going. And if we want to grow this business together, we need to be able to react very, very fast when changes are happening on trends and so on. So I think having a deadline and sending information to price lists very, very early, also holding us back as an industry to grow this industry. I think to be able to postpone that deadline a bit will help us also as an industry to be more fast when things are changing. But it will also help us to drive first time right of data. And that is very, very much the key, I would say. Because when data is changing, it will need to change in many, many, many places. And when things are changing in many places, it's a risk that some Excel file somewhere stored at the desktop will not be updated. And that person might talk to someone, and then the incorrect data will be added in some system and to some product. Price lists today look very different from reseller to reseller. And I think we as an industry, I think we really should try to work with Synkka is the trusted tool for article information. A data pool is what we should use for storing and sharing information. And I think price list should be used, as the wording says, on prices. It will most likely not come to a conclusion that we can say that we can exclude all the different article information. But I'm pretty sure we can try to work together as an industry and minimize the amount of data we should use in price lists. Because having one touch point of article information, that will be much easier to know the one truth of information will be stored at one place. And not at every single computer and Excel file. In the best of world, if everything has been shared 100% correct from the beginning, that would be fine. But that is not the reality we are living with. The last point I think it's important also to work on is very much about trying to work together in the industry to simplifying the information of sharing when things need to be ready. Because if you can come up to an agreement there where with support from the GS1 team to really saying that X amount of weeks before a deadline when products should be in store, this is what we recommend phase 1. X amount of weeks before deadline, this is what we recommend as a phase 2. Then people will know when kicking off projects exactly what type of timings we need to follow to sell our products. And to knowing exactly timings from earlier on when we're kicking off products, very much going to helping us to drive efficient product management, where we can ensure that the data will be there, updated on time in good quality. As a final point, I think I have 3 more minutes. I just want to share one thing with you, and that is if I would be able to one day implement a type of Nobel Prize for article information. That is what I would like to show you, what I think should win that prize. And that is the person that can come to an agreement about one pallet height that can fit the Nordic market. Because this is really, really something that drives inefficiency for so many people all over this business in the Nordic. So in Sweden, we're accepting pallets only which are 1250 milliliter. In Denmark, you have 1.8 meter, Finland 1.1 meter, and Norway 1.2 meter. So everyone has their own standard of pallet heights. So meaning that shipping pallets through different markets, you need to detop, you need to create new codes, and you need to remove layers, add layers, and etc. That is very, very time inefficient for many, many people. And that is something that creating very much confusion in system and creating annoyment between data going from different parties all over. Many people sitting here representing companies working for the Nordic markets, selling the same products across 4 different markets, which need to have them 4 different type of GTIN codes based on the different market the product is going to go to on pallet level. And then when you store warehouses, for example, for different markets, then you also need to have your product specified. This is a product for Denmark, this is one for Sweden with different GTINs, with different pallet heights, etc. And that is something I think we as an industry try to work with our Nordic hat on. What can be a good solution for this? I don't have the answer here, unfortunately. I want to win that Nobel Prize, but but that is really something that I think we can work together on and trying to come up with a conclusion for, because that's really going to make, if we want to make an effort and make some difference in the industry, this is really what we should focusing on. So, thank you very much. That was what I had for today in my 30 minutes. Very, very great to be here, and I really believe that together we really can, the key is to work together here. Suppliers, resellers, sit together and see what can drive efficiency for everyone. And I'm pretty sure that we can come up to a lot of good ideas on how to make this work more efficiently going forward. I think a lot of things are improving, and we have good ideas coming now. So I think we should definitely work on trying to implement these ideas going forward. So I will be here during today, so also catch me if you want to chat, and so I will be here. Good. Thank you very much.